Welcome back, diary listeners, and happy Tuesday. This is the second part of Nicole DeRoy's diary entry, and we are pleased to title this second piece Spongulator. Enjoy, listeners. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories began.
Well, no, and if you're not using a cheaper machine or an older coil machine or something that you don't mind that hit, if you're doing anything with a motor, that can be really, really hard on a motor too, like tattooing silicone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It does a number on your machine, for sure. And that's why I always say, like, stick to like fruit and things like that like the needles have a lot, I mean, even them, like can kind of stress it out, especially if they're cold. My apprentice broke a machine of mine. She's like, I took it out of the refrigerator and I think I broke your machine. I had others, but she was so devastated. I was like, it's fine, but what did we learn? She goes, I said, no cold fruit. Like, you can't. It came out of the refrigerator. Of course, it's fucking hard as shit right now. Like, room temperature fruit. You're not tattooing people who came out of the fucking tundra. like we're all at like 98.6 degrees, man. So yeah, I let it go because I had a lot of tattoo machines at that point. I mean, it sucks to have a machine break, but it wasn't my daily runner or anything like that. And you could tell she was just kicking herself so bad. She was so upset, and I was like, but yeah, the lessons. But yeah, you're right. I have always said with the fake skin, it's better for a portfolio piece. Like it's really like kind of that. Like you make a portfolio piece, show somebody something that maybe you want to do or that you're into doing, or exploring something on a body part like a head or a hand or something like that, which you don't get very often. And you can kind of explore compositional kind of things when you're using the body part. But if you're doing those flat slabs of, you can treat them like paper. It's not like dealing with a person at all.
No.
So you're right. You're definitely right. And stress on your machine. She had to relearn on people. That's another trial.
And even then, like, I wasn't really actively taught any technique. I was just kind of left to figure it out. It was tough because, like, she was working primarily in black and gray realism, never pulled lines.
Got you.
Even when she did work that required line work, she would never just pull a line. She was always scratching them in. So I never actually learned the line work right away. And here I am trying to do traditional style tattooing.
Yeah. Which is pretty admirable because, that's a really hard style. Like it's there's a reason why it's foundational for teaching tattoo. It's because it is foundational and it's wicked hard because everything shows.
Yep.
Everything.
Everything.
Yep. It's always the simplest things that I find, and I've said it before on the podcast, but like people always go, oh, it's just easy, it's it's just a straight line, or it's just a circle, or it's just, and it's like, dude,
a straight line is just a circle.
Whatever is just blah is not just anything. It is, you do it. You show me how to trace a circle right now. Do it. Just do it. let me see you just do it. And then you think about holding a vibrating thing and doing it on a person. And then you tell me how just it is. Right. It's always the simplest ones are the hardest because everything shows. The simplicity makes it critical that you don't mess up one bit of it. Whereas you can hide a bunch of mistakes if it's like,
right.
a bigger tattoo, and it's, it's got all this shading and all this stuff. I mean, that was my saving grace going into it, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a while there where I was using the trick where I would shade all the way up to the line just so that you didn't see
Yeah.
how shaky it was.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to do what you got to do, especially if your mentor is centered around a different style than you are, and that's not something they've done for a long time, like that's the other thing when you learn about getting tattooed by somebody. And I think that's what my apprentice learned in a lot of respects too, is that she liked a lot of tattoos outside of mine. She admired my work. She admired me as an artist, but she wanted to do a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't do. And I was like, well, dude, like, I don't do that. Like, if you had told me, and my whole thing was like, unlike your situation, she had a whole shop full of tattoo artists. And I was like, all of them do different styles. Go ask them.
Right.
I don't know everything, but you have access. You're now in the inner sanctum. You're now here. You can ask anybody. I'm not gonna, my basic view is when you go into college and they ask you to write a paper, they're not gonna accept a paper if you don't have at least 3 sources. Are they gonna accept a paper when your only source is just one article? No.
Right.
That's not a good research paper. Where's your research? Reading somebody else's research? Like, that's not research. So you have to have at least 3 sources. So my whole thing was like, well, this is very fundamental to learning anyway. You don't stay here and just learn from me. I understand there's a whole attitude about like, oh, don't ask anybody outside your mentor. But I was like, well, that's dumb because that's not how it works. And you were in the sciences, so it's not how it works.
Right.
So how did you bridge the gap between that, like between what you wanted to learn and what she was able to show you?
It was trial and error.
Yeah. You just fucked around
And
long enough.
huh?
You just fucked around long enough to kind of get it.
I mean, even then, like I really didn't quite get it.
Yeah.
Like I was struggling
Mhm.
and it was very devastating and like discouraging because I was like, damn, like I would see other apprentices through Instagram fucking crushing it. And I was like, why can't I just fucking get this? Why can't I get this? Like,
Right.
I get physics, I get biology, I get all this stuff, I get art. Why can't I fucking get this line pulled?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And it was just so frustrating. And like, nobody was helping me diagnose what the problem was. Like, I eventually got to a point where it was just good enough that she was like, okay, let's get you licensed. It's been too long. Where it was like,
Okay.
okay, I was, my lines were just good enough that it was like, okay, well, you're not going to fuck people up, but,
Right.
it's not going to be super clean. Um,
Wow. All right. Well, that's a way. Again, we're just gonna kick you down the mountain. Hope you don't die.
but I think it just got to a point too where, because I was doing apprentice tattoos for so long that she was tired of not making money from them.
Mm.
And
Dude,
eventually she started asking me for a cut
got
from
you.
my tips.
Oh, got you. I got you.
And they were free tattoos, but for tip.
Oh,
And some
wow.
people were kind enough to be like, well, how much would this normally cost? Because that's what I'm going to
Oh,
give you. And then she started asking me for money.
oh, that's crazy. That's crazy because that definitely should not happen. Your tip is especially in the free zone. Um,
Yeah.
I heard from Cooper at Paradise, and I love this. I'd like to have him on the show, but he seemed a little like, yeah, I don't know about that. And it's because of how he learned, and I understand his reasons, but I'm gonna steal what he said and just throw it out there. But he said, I asked for, I think he said 3,000 up front, and he's like, and I teach him. He's like, but I save all that money. I don't spend it on anything. And at the end of their apprenticeship, I buy them their first tattoo machine and everything like that. And that's the money I use. So if they make it through everything, I spend all that money on them eventually and give them
That's
that.
great.
I know. I was like, dude, that's awesome. That's so great. And he's like, yeah. And I set, their whole ink setup, everything like that. I just take that money and I invest it in their first setup so that they have everything they need. There's no fucking around. There's no like figuring it out for themselves kind of thing. It's just like, you made it. Here's your reward. I was like, dude, that's awesome. That's such a great way to go about it. They have to put up
Wow.
some collateral, they get it back, and you're not benefiting from it. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I had to pay for everything.
Mm.
I had to pay for gloves, which during COVID were not cheap.
No, and not easy to find.
I had to pay for all my machines, obviously. Like I had to buy my own inks. She didn't really use color ink. She only used black, so I had to buy all my own.
Dude.
And when you don't know what colors you like, you buy everything.
Yep. Yep. You're
Which
like,
now they're all in the
shit.
trash because they're all bricks and expired.
You're like, I don't like any of them anymore.
And I don't like that brand anymore. So,
Yeah, I got
um,
you.
and then yeah, I was working off a beat up, broken, like had the wheels falling off toolbox of hers.
No.
And the top of it was all bent, so it was like not even a flat surface to be working off of.
Oh
So I
shit.
ended up having to buy my own cart. I bought my own massage bed, everything, because there was nothing for me to work on
Right,
because
right,
it was just her and her stuff. There was like she had shit in the basement that had been sitting down there for years, but it was covered in mold. And I'm like, I can't tattoo on this.
right.
So I ended
Yeah.
up just buying all my own stuff. And it was like, I literally put myself so far in the hole.
The one thing I remember from the community space, that you were saying is like, how do I get busy? Like, how do I get, yeah. And I think the only thing that I offered was like, do good flash. If you put out good flash pre-drawn to stuff, and your stuff is very beautiful. The things that you put out,
Thank you.
yeah, very clean. I was like, why isn't she getting busy? This stuff's gorgeous. Like when she finally put it out, I was like, wow, dude, like this is clean. This is dope, dope as shit. And even if you're not getting busy, at least you're putting out good artwork during that time, and you can make stickers, you can do anything with it eventually, sell it eventually. But it's also that headspace that it keeps you in too, where you're just making and you're putting yourself to something like, okay,
Yeah.
this is better than sitting here and being upset, about why is this not happening? But yeah, you put out really, really beautiful, clean stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
she's gonna get busy. Like if she isn't now, like she'll definitely get busy. And then, it took a couple years of like bullshit, but then it did start. I started seeing, when did you feel like it started clicking? Just time under the needle, or like,
Yeah, it was time
yeah,
under the needle. A few months after getting licensed, I ended up leaving that shop.
gotcha.
It was just, I wasn't really learning. I wasn't, getting anything back in return. I felt like I was still treated in the same role, even after I was an autonomous licensed artist.
And bought all your own
It just,
shit.
yeah, it was just, it was, I was getting talked down to still. It was just not, and all the trauma dumping still, and just everything else. And
Yeah,
it just got to a point where I was like, you know what? This is just not a healthy environment that I'm going to be able to grow in. So I had to make a decision.
right.
And I didn't really know many people either in the tattoo industry, especially like apprenticing through COVID. Like there was nothing, there was no way to get to know anybody
Yep.
except for the people that I found on social media. And locally, I was like, okay. So I ended up at the shop that I was at most recently, that I actually just am no longer at as of last week. And fortunately, like that was a shop where at the time when I transitioned, had several artists there. And one of them, my good friend Forrest, he just actually celebrated tattooing 33 years this year.
Oh, right on. That's awesome.
So I got to spend a lot of time with him,
That's great.
and I learned a lot from him. And I learned a lot from the shop owner too, but he was only there part-time
Yeah.
because he was working at another shop. And you know, it was great because at first he was like, okay, he took me in, and then he had an apprentice who had just graduated at the same time.
Right.
He was like, I'm going to get you both up to speed so that you can work at any shop. And I was like, great, please, thank you. I need this.
Right.
And he gave us like 6 months worth of assignments where every month we would focus on a different style of tattooing and draw flash for it
Nice.
and do the research on the style and like understand it and all this other stuff. And that was really great. And it was awesome. And I was like, this is what an apprenticeship should be like.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
honestly, it wasn't until I started working there after being licensed for several months that I was told for the first time, no, trace stuff like Sailor Jerry, trace it until you get it. And I was like, I thought I wasn't allowed to trace anything. I was tattooing wonky fucking proportions on people up until then. Like,
Right.
you'll have to see sometime, like, you'll meet Chris sometime.
Okay. Right
Yeah.
on. I would love to meet Chris. This is your partner, right?
Yeah, it's my partner.
Yeah.
And he was my huge guinea pig. And
God bless him.
my first crawling panther I ever did. And it's just so wonky. It's just it has a beefy fucking shoulder. Like it just never quit on shoulder
It's
day.
just like, yeah.
And like the
He's a
head
curl
is way
bro.
too big. And it's like, had I known like, oh, it's okay to just trace classic flash to get the motions down and to understand the designs and the proportions and to get that muscle memory before you could just start drawing freehand.
Yep. Yep. That was one of the things that I told people, like, especially if they wanted to learn portraiture. I'm like, trace half the face and then take that away and then use the tracing part to guide you to the other portions and then struggle from there. But give yourself at least a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
Or just fully trace. Like when you fully trace, you learn proportions, you learn these things. It's very subtle, the learning, but you do. Not to mention tracing is a whole other, it's so much more integral to pulling a line and tattooing than it is freehand drawing.
Yeah, and it did help a lot.
Yeah,
It
because
a lot. Because even then too, that was one of the things he told me. He was like, you know, even just tracing them, you're gonna see, okay, this is how you're going to pull the line for this part. This is, you know, the lines are drawn in certain lengths so that you know when to pick up your machine.
Yep.
All these little things that were so
like
nuanced
light bulb.
in it was just like, wow.
Yeah.
And I
like,
was
holy
like,
crap.
how am I in over 2 years and no one has told me this?
Yeah, that would feel shitty.
And I was like, God damn it. And like stretching the skin. The first time I learned a 3-point stretch.
Yep.
I was like, why am I not getting this? And it's like, because nobody is actually teaching me anything. And it wasn't until I actually started getting taught how and why that I was like, okay, this is starting to click now.
That's awesome. And you're like, oh, this is what all these other apprentices were getting. And I'm not just a moron who can't get this. And no wonder why I didn't know a 3-point stretch. I've been working on fucking silicone most of this time. You don't have to stretch it.
I didn't know to use the heel of my tattooing hand
to pull on that side, and then which Cooper has like even an added thing for his process, which I really I should have probably taken his but it was 2 days, and by the time I realized how fucking cool it was,
I wanted to take that one also, but then I wouldn't have been able to do so many other things.
No, I think it all worked out the way it was supposed to. I hope that there's more time ahead and I get to see these people and hang out with them again. But yeah, his was like a 2-day thing, and by the time I realized how awesome it was on the second day, and I was like, well, fuck, I missed half of it, so I guess that's not gonna happen. But yeah, he has a whole like posture thing and how to hold the machine so it doesn't wear you down and all that good stuff, ergonomics, which is cool. And you know, I'd love always down to like learn something more like that because we get older,
right?
and you know, that stuff wears on you eventually, which, you know, in the background, not only are you learning all these things, but you're also still dealing with medical journey, which you're trying to heal yourself as well. So I'm sure this is just relief on top of relief.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez, man. That's crazy. All right.
It has been a journey.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm thinking like, all right, biggest hurdles. You've listed a whole bunch of them. Do you remember what your first tattoo was?
Yeah, I do. My first tattoo, it's on my ankle.
Oh yeah. I think I saw it. What was it?
Oh God, it's a sponge emoji.
Oh, I don't know if I did see it. Oh, so cute. I love that.
So it was an inside joke with me and my mentor. So
Because
this
you're a
was a thing
sponge.
where it's like, yeah, no. So because she had like literal like clinical OCD to the point where like, you know, she has to like check the door so many times. She has to make sure it's locked. She has to like make sure everything's unplugged, all that stuff. And it was a whole routine every single night closing the shop.
Right.
And then it took a very, very long time for her to trust me enough to just leave before me and let me clean up without waiting for me.
Got you.
And eventually, when she did, it would be 1,000 questions at the end of the night,
Oh
text
Lord.
separately. So I'm answering all these texts separately, which in retrospect was actually a good training for dealing with the clients and the DMs. Oddly
True.
enough.
Yeah.
Like, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? Like, no, you're going to do this
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah.
So I one night randomly, when she started asking me all the questions, instead of answering them all individually, I just sent her an emoji of a sponge. And she was like, what the hell does that mean?
Nicole. That's awesome.
And I was like, it means everything is how it is and how it should be.
Fucking cleaned. I cleaned it all. I did it all.
Everything is done. All the lights are off.
I like
Everything is
see your fucking
unplugged.
list of questions in my eyelids before I go to bed at night, man. Like, fuck.
And so it just got to, so I just started just responding with the sponge anytime she would ask me a question.
That's awesome. Way to take the power back. I love it.
So, you know, she would leave at the end of the night. She'd be like, okay, let me know, you know, and this thing's that thing. I'm like, yeah, no worries. I'll sponge you later.
Sponge you later.
So this is just a thing. Every night I'd be like, yeah, I'll sponge you later. Like, what the fuck?
Oh my God. That's so awesome. That is
So it's
that is such a
literally, so
great.
my first tattoo is literally the sponge emoji with a banner that says spongulata.
I love that so much. I might have to call this podcast at least one part of this spongulator. I mean, like, dude, that is like a great first tattoo that you did on yourself thing. Oh my God, that's so great.
And
because it
yeah.
because it just encapsulates the whole thing and just be like, dude, this is fucking ridiculous.
And you know what? I'll always look down on that ankle and know exactly what I did to get where I
Oh
am.
man, that's awesome. I love that so much.
Yeah.
So glad I didn't miss that question. That's awesome. Oh my God.
Oh, Esme, come here.
Oh.
I know, I know. I'm
Um,
on the phone.
so now that you're up and rolling and all of that good stuff, you know, we've had some discussions about like, you know,
One
now you're
second. Sorry.
yeah, get your puppy.
What's the matter?
Oh, the baby.
You're okay, honey. He just wants attention.
That's understandable. We've been going for a little bit. She's probably like, what the hell are you doing? Oh, the baby.
That's okay, sweetheart. What's the matter? What's the matter?
I hear this random voice.
You need to go outside. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, go. That's fine. Definitely. You gotta take care of your pups. Typically, this would be a piece of the podcast that I would have removed, but I would like to ask all listeners to join us in prayer to recognize Esme. Uh, During the past couple weeks since this podcast has aired, Nicole had to say goodbye to her puppy. So I wanted to leave this piece in there for her as she listened, because I found that when my pet was going through a lot of his issues and we thought we might lose him, it was like everything I had in me to hold on to him, and I would try to catch moments of him purring on my phone, and I still do to this day. I actually get Rico snoring at times too, which is quite hilarious. But I think this is a time to call everybody to appreciate everyone and everything in your life, to love it as hard as you can, and to just be grateful. And I'm very happy that in some very small way, I got to experience Esme when she was still with us, and that we were able to get this little piece of her on record. So this is to Esme. God bless you, hun. And Nicole, our heart is with you.
I'm going to bring my computer with me where I can see when they're coming back in.
Sounds good. No worries. I was just spraying my plants.
Nice.
I was like, I didn't spray you today. We're taking care of babies.
Oh,
It's very cool. Right on.
I'm so
All right.
flushed. Oh my God.
Because that was awesome. That was hilarious. I hope everybody has that kind of laugh. Holy crap, man. That's dope. Uh-huh. Well, and what I was gonna ask is, like, you left the last shop despite what it gave you. You have gratitude for that, but I
Of
think
course.
that moving ahead, I think that it's been clear since everything that you've gone through, and that you now recognize the healing aspects of tattooing, what it's healed you in, and then also what it can do for other people.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, whew, this is the stuff that gets me jazzed.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
So it was like I started noticing, just anytime I would tattoo someone, even if it was early, and it wasn't the best tattoo quite yet, just the way that it made people feel, and the way that people started to fall in love with themselves again. And so many of us, myself included, deal with bouts of body dysmorphia. I mean, just our society and the way that we grow up, and now we have social media, and comparison is everywhere, and comparison is the thief of joy. I forget who said that, but it's one of my favorite quotes.
I know my apprentice said it.
I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that's just one way in which I started realizing, like, wow, I too started getting tattooed because it made me feel better about myself. It made me feel more comfortable in my skin and in who I am as a person, and helped me reconnect with myself at my core.
Mm-hmm.
And now, ever since having like a major spiritual awakening through the last few years with my health journey and my apprenticeship and COVID and everything else,
Yes.
reconnecting with spirit and finding that the energetic aspect in the tattooing
Mm-hmm.
is honestly the most profound. It's an energetic exchange. And I started noticing that days that I had maybe partied a little bit the night before, my energy was off, the tattoo was off. I never saw that person again, and that broke my heart.
Yeah.
Like, they never came back.
Yeah.
Like, what was it that I did
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a huge responsibility. And learning the energetic aspect of it and diving deeper into that, and essentially realizing that that energy gets imprinted on that tattoo, whether or not we want it to, whether or not we believe it does.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
they always, it's there, it's indelible, it's not going away.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you look back on those tattoos, and hell, I have tattoos too. I look back on those tattoos and I remember that artist, and I remember the mood they were in, and I remember how they talked to me
Mm-hmm.
and how they treated me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if you're not taking it in your highest regard to show up in the best version that you can for that person, you're harming them, you're not healing them.
Yeah.
But when you do take the time to show up, you put in the effort, you put in the work, you do the inner work, you do the energetic work, you make sure that you're giving them the best tattoo that they can get.
Hey, are you somebody who likes to draw? Are you somebody who wants to draw better? Are you someone who tattoos? Are you somebody who wants to tattoo better? Well, then I recommend that you go to our special offer in our show notes of this podcast page. Our website is theapprenticeshipdiaries.com, and on this page you'll find all our listed episodes. Within there, the show notes, there will be a link, TAD 10. Click on there and find yourself 10% off a year's worth of the Reinventing the Tattoo canon. It will make you better. Yeah.
It's healing.
Oh, it is. It is. Well, and like you said, I mean, obviously you've spent years just trying to tattoo.
Right.
So, and it broke you down in a lot of different ways, that, whether good or bad, it broke you down in a lot of ways that you had to reflect. And so to have to heal through that, and then, we took Chimu's class together, find your why within that, and keep pulling through that, and paying attention. And you did so much just to sacrifice to get there, and then you had to like continue healing, and then recognize like, oh, now I'm put in a state where I have to be conscientious of these things. You realize how integral it is, and how much you have to really put yourself in alignment with that. I was I was brought up in the service industry, and my parents' business was that. So that was something that I think right away I was taught, because I wasn't around drunk people or anything. I was around people that were coming to atone in a space where they needed a second space, or a third space rather, like aside from their work, aside from their home. They needed a place where they could just be and then be uplifted. So we were always taught, like there was books, and I still recommend them, doing a lot of seminars. And that's why I love the seminar thing, and the podcast thing, because these were like big aha things for me in my childhood growing up. My parents always put me in things like that. But there's a couple books, Be Nice or Else, and On Being a Day Maker, are two books that hairstylists have written. And they're just all about like you said, showing up for people, and what that means to people. It means so much more than you ever think, because you go through these things in your life where you're like, how important am I, like. And I've seen tattoo artists be like, oh, we just fucking tattoo, like, it's, why are you taking it so seriously? It's because it is serious. It's either that it's not serious, but then you can't bitch. You can't bitch about anything. You can't hold any standard whatsoever. So fine, if it's really not that serious, then yeah, fuck around. But a lot of people are going to get hurt, and you probably are not going to feel good either by the end of it, and nothing will matter, and you won't be able to even complain about it, or everything does matter. And I lean in that camp, and I find that the more that you can recognize what you've recognized, the more you can scale. And it's brought a lot of awesome things to your work, because now you're learning energy work and things like that. And that can be coupled into what you do and scale the value of who you are and what you're able to bring to the table that nobody else can. And with a style like traditional, which a lot of people can do, maybe not well, but like but a lot of people do, because it's traditional work and it's coined. It's these very coined things. And that was what was cool about Chimu's class too, is that he did a lot of sacred tattoos that you don't alter it. You just know how fucking important and integral it is.
Mhm.
And you only tattoo it if it fits that mark and it fits that person, that place, that time, that energy work. So it's a whole other experience.
All
And
with intention.
yes, and I really love that, one, that's where you're going with it, especially after like spinning off of Casey's podcast interview too, and I just learned about everything she was doing. I was like, oh dude, this is so cool. And Casey,
Yeah.
you're part of a mentor group there, which is really dope. And yeah, talk about that. Like, how'd you find that mentor space?
So it's actually wild because one of my oldest friends, who was one of the first people who got tattooed by me, one of my college buddies, he shared Reese's page with me probably about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, because he saw that I was really struggling with dealing with social media and getting work. And there was a point where it was like, I think it was winter 2021. It was pretty bleak. Um,
That's a
this
slow
was the
time of year
first winter.
anyway.
This was the first, I mean, it was also the first winter that I was a licensed artist and I was at this new shop,
Mm.
which was a new shop. It had only been around for a year. And there was weeks that I only made $200 and then I would make zero the next.
Mm.
And I was dog walking on the side just to get my bills paid. And
Lord.
I was definitely like in a spot where I was like, God damn it. Like, I thought that this was going to be a lot easier than it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he had shared Reese's Instagram with me. And I just like followed along for a while. And I was like, oh, whatever, social media, like, whatever. Who wants to do that? No one likes making reels. Why does anyone make a reel? It's stupid. Why can't we just post pictures? I found myself like playing those in my head over and over again. And then I was like, wait a second, maybe I should try some of this.
Yeah.
I started listening to her podcast, and which is just so beautiful in itself too. Like the way that she goes about it energetically and from the spiritual viewpoint is just so empowering. And it helped me a lot. It helped me come out of that cocoon. It really like helped me like to go within and kind of like sit with my shadows. And I started practicing some of those things. And then eventually she had offered a free little teaser seminar for a day on like magnetism with social media magnetism. So I was like, all right, I'll go check this out and see what it's about. And it was just like a 1 hour little live Zoom thing with whoever, and then I was hooked.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, oh, mentoring and coaching. This is something that's going to be super helpful for me, because I always had a thirst for knowledge, and like I see myself as a student of life, and there's always more to be learned and more to be practiced and more to be honed and more to be done. And I immediately went and saw if I could get PayPal credit, and I was able to finance her Inspired Academy for
Nice.
six
That's
months with no
awesome.
interest. So then that's how I got my foot in the door, and the rest honestly is history. Like,
Nice.
it really just helped me get out of the funk and out of that kind of like inauthentic, um what's the word, victimhood mentality that
Yeah.
I had been living in, because damn, COVID really beat us down. No matter
Yeah.
what side, no matter what camp we were in, we were all beat down and our souls were destroyed. I fully believe that it was like a spiritual war. Like, it's a lot of it's spiritual warfare.
I think it was a death. I think it was this there was a death and awakening for
Yeah,
everybody.
definitely.
Um and that's why I mean people have heard it enough on the podcast. But yeah, I agree. I agree with that. It was rough and it was hard to recover from because, you had to actively like either fight so hard just to move, just to hug somebody. I mean, like crying out loud, like everything was like if you coughed, people were like,
Yep.
at you. So all of our everything that was natural and normal and not a thing was made a thing. So it was really like I've been in a involuntarily committed before into a fourth floor of a psychiatric ward. It was like that. That's what it felt like. It was like everything that you thought was normal was flipped on its ass and made not normal. And everything was being scrutinized in ways that you were like, holy shit, dude. Like, what is happening? And it was like all of life became a psychiatric ward. And I thought I escaped that in my life. No. No. No, who knew that the whole circus could be everywhere?
Right.
Like, and so, I mean, I had already experienced a lot of that, but I definitely concur. That's definitely what happened. And I'm glad that you found that because, the only other thing that I would refer and that I do refer is reinventing the tattoo because that's how I've kind of
Sure.
encouraged people go there. You're going to meet dope tattoo artists. They're going to be kind and compassionate. They're going to uplift you. They'll give constructive critique, you know, and that paradise, that's where it's at. And then you entered a whole realm there, which was really cool because there's so much biomechanical stuff and that's so painterly and like you kind of very organic and things like that. So it was a neat time, I think, for you too, because now that you've kind of honed so much structure and you kind of get all those things to be opened up to like all these other possibilities now too. Now that you have the structural elements down of tattooing, and on top of that, like more tattoo artists that now too, which is really dope.
It's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. And a thing to note is like if anybody thinks that financially we're not burdened, oh, like, I mean, and that's the beginning, man. Like debt is so much a part of it in the beginning. Um, even when Rico met me, I had credit card debt that I was whittling down and I still have a little bit of it, but it's like you have to take those leaps. You have to spend money to make money. It's not cheap in any
No.
regard. I
No.
mean, just one bottle of ink can put you out $30. Like people just don't understand how much is
Yeah.
invested in it just in the materials part of it, but then in all of the other parts, it's so much. And you're doing it again, probably because you can survive it, and that it's just going to keep scaling, and it does. I think that that's the best way to invest your money. If I can put anything out there, to people.
Go on Instagram, subscribe to Oddball Rifle Club if you're interested in muzzleloading rifles and black powder firearms.
Yeah, reinvesting it in yourself.
And your business.
And you know what? It has helped. Like the growth that I've had from last year to this year has to be upwards of 30%.
That's awesome. That's so good.
And granted, I'm still spending a lot of that money. I'm not on the other side yet, but I'm not drowning.
Yes.
And I think that's important to note is it's like, it's scary when
Mhm.
I was like, what the fuck? I'm going to pay $3,000 for this class. What the frig? What am I doing? Am I insane? And I was like, I don't have that. I was like, but how many tattoos can I do to make that up? Or
Yeah.
like, you know, how is that going to help me get more people in my chair? And it has.
Yep.
And if anything, it's gotten me quality people who are on my level, who are soulmates.
Aww.
Like the people who I get in my chair now. I mean, I still might not be fully booked, but the people who are there, they're my people.
Yeah, it's
They're
integral.
good people. And it's like, it's really heartwarming. And hell, I literally just had this client. What day is it today? 2 days ago on Saturday. She lives in Massachusetts. She doesn't drive. She Ubered all the way
Oh,
to South County.
oh my God. Oh,
It
that's
was
so
like a
awesome.
45-minute
Yeah.
drive, but she Ubered to make sure that she could still come get her tattoo from me. And
Oh,
I was just like floored when she told me that. I was like, you literally Ubered all the way out here? That's insane. And she had to Uber all the way back home too.
oh.
And I was just like so just overwhelmed with gratitude. I was like, here, take some prints. Like, you want some prints? Take this one, take that one,
Yeah,
whatever.
please.
And I was like, she was like, how much? And I'm like, no,
Just
you just
please.
paid me for a 4-hour custom session and tipped me. Like, no,
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
no. And you're paying for Ubers. You don't have to buy prints. Take prints, please. Put them on your wall, admire them, love them.
What I like about
And she
that
was
too,
like,
she's really excited.
she was so excited. She was so
Aw.
excited. And then on top of it, she was like, honestly, I don't even care. You could move across the globe and I would still travel to come see you.
Oh, and she would. I
And
have a
she
lot of clients
would.
like that. Yeah,
And
she
I'm
would.
like tearing up right now just talking about it again. But I'm like, holy shit.
Well,
These
at
are
least,
the people that you find when you show up as yourself. And you
well, and when you
stop
put
letting
in
the
the work,
world dictate everything that you are.
and you put in the work too, because, you know, whilst your mentor in the very beginning didn't give you gas money, what you're finding is that once you actually get to perform in that space, people will drive the extra mile for you. So it does pay back. It takes a while,
Yeah.
but you know, if you're willing to do that, it pays back, and then you have an opportunity to give back a little bit of love that you felt like would have been nice if you had gotten in the long run. So that's awesome. What a great story. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it was just beautiful.
It is. That's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. And she would travel. I have a lot of clients like that. That was my experience in COVID. Like, you know, I had worked longer than you, but you know, I usually was traveling all around, like doing at least 4 conventions a year and seeing certain people, and they would meet me at tattoo conventions if I'd be close to them. And you know, COVID, I wasn't traveling. I was trying to like get my head together and like just keep working.
Yeah.
But they were like, "Oh, can we travel in to see you?" And I was like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, dude, and you can stay with me." Like, well, we'll Airbnb this shit. Like, don't pay for accommodation. Stay. I have 2 spare bedrooms. Like, come stay. I will tattoo. It's awesome. We'll make you breakfast. Like, like it'll be great. And it was so wonderful. But they totally did, and it was so neat because I was able to meet my clients in such a very rare and special way. And that's what it's all about, dude. Like, you know, that's the healing part of it too, because you know, there's so much in life that make you utterly and completely not want to human anymore and be around humans. But I think that this industry has the power to either do that or bring you back. And I like it when it brings you back. It does it in such a beautiful way.
And it just comes with surrendering and trusting the process. And
Yep.
the more that you try to micromanage everything, the more roadblocks you end up having to go around, the more obstacles that are put in your way. And if anything, like the last year and a half of doing this like deep dive work that I've been doing on myself has only proven that. Like, just let go.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
something better for you, and it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely. And you got the moxie too for it, man. Like I'm excited for you moving ahead. I like this new place that you're at. It sounds like it's already proving so much awesomeness and potential. And yeah, and I love the energy work that you're putting into it. I can't wait to see what that does for you moving ahead.
I
Just a
do
lot of
do
cool
some
things.
I do do some ceremonial work. I haven't had the opportunity to do it super frequently.
We'll talk about it a little bit because like outline how it looks so that
Sure.
people who are listening, maybe they'll jump onto that,
Hey, that would be awesome. I would love to
right?
invite you in.
Yeah, man,
If
totally.
it sparks your interest, like let me
Yeah.
know. I'm in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Um, so essentially with that, what I'm doing is I'm doing more of a shamanic practice,
Mhm.
because I'm actually studying some shamanism as well. So with that shamanic practice, what we do is we sit in a ceremony and essentially we do a brief meditation together. I call in your spirit guides to assist. I do some channeling in which we work with oracle cards, tarot cards, anything of that nature, whatever's feeling guided at that moment. I have like 12 decks. It's insane. It's a problem. But they're all beautiful and
Is
they're
it?
wonderful. Is it a problem? No, not really. Um, and essentially, depending on where you are at this point in your journey and what you're trying to discover or, have come to you to help get you to your next step, based on what we learn through that process, we'll co-create together a essentially it doubles as a consultation where based on the imagery and the messages, I will actually help to channel a design that we then tattoo with that energy flowing that same day with it being present. And I'll actually use my Reiki practice as well to infuse that intention and energy into the tattoo and the pigment itself.
Fantastic.
So I've only done a few of them. It's still a new practice, but it's been super profound for everybody that has received one so far. And I'm even in awe myself with how these things come together. More recently, I did one where I was working with this gentleman who is trying to offer like a way of helping guide people almost in a bodywork sense, but also with psychology on how to really root down and be grounded in order to achieve higher levels of consciousness.
Mhm.
Um, and he was having trouble trusting his process, and he was, closing himself off and deciding who he would talk to about it and who he wouldn't, and like who he would open up to and who he wouldn't. And from two different decks, the same message came up.
Wow.
Flower doesn't open and close depending on who walks by.
Yep. It's just the sun. You bathe the natural. Yeah, I love that. I
But it was
love
like
that.
that message came through so strongly. And then just with other things that were coming up with that, it was actually, it's probably my favorite design that I've done so far, where you to use like the caduceus staff, and
Gotcha.
I illustrated the staff coming down like it was roots
Oh,
through
awesome.
a peony, um, with a Merkaba floating above it. So
Gotcha. Now, do you heavily document these? Because I would think that'd
yes
be a
and
way.
no.
I
Yes
would
and
say,
no.
okay, because I that might be something just as you were saying, and I was like, testimonials of these clients would be really cool.
I do have
Um,
those as well.
cool, awesome.
Yeah.
So those testimonials are cool, but then also like your documentation of them because I found in my beginning I didn't have a standard portfolio. What I had was like took pictures And then I like write like this like mock-up of my client, like and why we did the tattoo. And so as people's like flipping through my portfolio, they weren't just seeing the images. They would read about my clients and they were like, dude, I love your portfolio because I get to learn about why this tattoo is the way it is. And it's so cool. And it would get their ideas like moving and stuff like that. So I just wanted to share that with you because I feel like that might be a cool way to like when you make a book of your portfolio, you put like little excerpts next to them and like make it a book and like let people, it could be a picture book. I mean, I if there's pictures in it, I'm looking at the pictures, then I might read it. but but you can always like choose that. But I found that when I did that, people were like, "Oh man, I want to be in the book. Like I want to get tattooed because she actually gives a shit." She was like learning about these people, like, and that's a thing that I find, and you know, social media is a lot like that too.
Right.
You know, some more. I mean, of course, that's a very intimate space, but like, and you have to ask for permission to share those stories and stuff like that. But I think that would be really cool. It's like add that testimonial air to it, and then you know document it, and then you know like, oh, you're in a book. Look at that.
I mean, I do so I have like written like little stories and stuff
Oh,
which I
cool.
post on social media when I do share it.
Right.
Because it really just is so beautiful. And I mean, part of me also is a writer, so I really enjoy that part of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do try to like tell the story and tell the tale.
Right. Yeah,
I think it's
because
so important. It's so personal. And it's just
when you're
beautiful.
utilizing some really cool things too, like you know, using tarot and different decks and things like that. There's so many things that you can talk about, like what deck you use, like all these different things. And of course, like if it's a specific deck of a certain person, like if they created the deck, you can shout them out, like all these different business.
Totally.
But it's all great because good business, good entrepreneurship is seeing a gap in the world that you know your gifts can fulfill. And you're doing it with a lot of integrity to be connected to everything, to reconnect with everything and make it better and lift it up. And you know, you can see it as like, oh, you're just trying to make money. You got to make money. But like how you make money and why you make money and this preciseness, you can make money a million different ways. Like Chimo said, if I really want to make money, I'd sell water.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you walk around in places where water's like $3 a thing and like offer it for 250 and look there, you're already making money. Like, so there's lots of ways to do that. But I really love that. That's awesome. So if somebody wanted to do that with you, how should they reach out to you?
I prefer them to email me.
Okay.
That way, if they have any questions, I can field those questions, or if they have any concerns, because it is a little bit unnerving. It's an open-ended situation. You don't know what you're getting into, and that's part of the fun
Mm-hmm.
because it's exactly what you need in that moment. And I mean, I do my due diligence to make sure that it's all good. It's not, there's no malevolence in there. I do the work on the back end to make sure of that.
Yeah.
But it's a little unnerving because it is a permanent tattoo. But the magic and the beauty of that is that that intention in that moment, in that experience, is forever embedded into that tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter where you find yourself in the future, in your life, on your journey, you will always see that tattoo and come back home to yourself in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really love being able to bring to people.
Heck yeah, man. I love that. I absolutely love that. What is your email?
It's
Well,
it's
go ahead.
Nicole DeRoy tattoos at gmail.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. And your Instagram?
Nicole DeRoy tattoos. And then I also have one for my ceremonial stuff. There's an
Awesome.
underscore before it, but it's Sacred Earth Tattoo.
Awesome. I don't think I'm following you there yet. I'm gonna have to get on the ball.
It's a work in progress.
It don't matter.
Yeah.
I'm just catching up to what your name actually is. I was like, you're like, it's DeRoy, by the way. And I was like, yes, it is. What are you doing? I don't even know. But yeah, okay. And do you have a website or anything like that?
I do. You can find me at NicoleDeRoy.com
Awesome. Perfect.
and everything is
Sweet.
there.
Did we cover everything? Is there anything else that we didn't put out? I mean, we could do this again. I hope to stay in touch with you for a while and clock your progress, but is there
Yeah.
anything? I mean, there was one thing I was like, do you have pet peeves in the industry? But I've kind of discounted that question just because I think we're really blessed and I don't really
Yeah,
ask it
overall,
much.
we're super blessed. I mean, if there's something that peeves you, it's up to you to put up a boundary so that it doesn't affect your energy.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
so, I mean, as you've experienced, I'm very good at that.
You are. You are. I mean, you've been through enough to really know those
I
boundaries,
mean,
man.
it's funny. I've actually had clients like come to me and be like, "I really love your boundaries."
I'm telling you, man, it's
And I'm like,
great.
"I do too, honey."
No, it's something to emulate for sure. And it's very clean and it doesn't feel like you said, there's no malevolence. It just is what it is. And I like that because it's not, I don't know, like if I guess if you were very like, oh my God, does she like me kind of person, like maybe that would affect you. But
Well,
I'm just
guess
like,
what? I'm probably too much for them anyway, if that's at that
probably,
point. Like,
probably.
I'm at a point where I just do not give any fucks. If I'm too much for you, then honey, go find less. Like,
I hear you. But I also think that you do care. You just care in very specific ways and you're not
sure,
apologetic about it. And it's good. It's really, really good. And it's to be admired and to be respected. And I think that's the benefit of good boundaries is that it garnishes respect. If even if you don't like a person with like that, that's okay because you can at least respect them. Be like, dude,
totally.
they keep showing up and they keep doing it in a consistent fashion. I can't be mad about that. I can see it coming. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's all I want in this world. It's just like, man, just give me some awareness of what's happening here. I just so much energy just figuring out what the hell's going on. Like, but it's nice when you meet people there's like, just I'm gonna tell you how it is. And that's that. I'm like, oh, I can work with that. Thank you. Awesome.
yeah.
Well, thank you
Thank
very, very
you.
much. This is awesome. And we have a good two episodes worth that I'm definitely gonna call Spongulator one. I mean, I have to. I have to. Probably the first one because we're gonna sponge you later.
Basically. Oh God, that just sounds so bad.
Doesn't. It's so
Sounds
awesome.
like you're either gonna give someone a sponge bath or you're doing the dirty.
Look, it's a good hook. You know marketing. You gotta have a good hook. People are like, what
Of
the fuck
course.
is this? Like, and then they'll know. They'll know what it is. And I love it so much. I know we can show a little picture of your tattoo, and I'll let you come up with the rest. But is there, do you have any closing notes? Anything that you want to offer anyone getting into this before we wrap?
I think it's very important to really get to know yourself and sit with yourself and decide, is this something that I'm willing to do? Is this something that I'm really willing to give my all? And because while tattooing takes so much energy and so much effort, it does give so much more back. And with that, yeah, you have to put in the energy and the effort. You have to be willing to do what it takes. And sometimes you might have to do things that you're not comfortable with doing, like getting on social media and making the damn reel and learning to love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Or
Once you do
even
it,
just,
it's so
yeah,
simple.
yeah. Or even just, or if you don't, then find a different way. But it's
Mhm.
like there's going to be effort no matter which way you go about it. And if you're not willing to put in that work and that effort, it it's probably not going to last. And you just have to really face yourself with that and understand that and be like, hey, you know what? There's a lot that's going to be sacrificed, but in the end, it'll be worth it because then you gain back all that energy that you put in up front. It's an investment. It's a solid investment, energetically, financially, time investment. You lose friendships, you gain friendships, you lose relationships.
Yep.
I'm fortunate I still have my partner after all.
Yeah, Chris is a solid guy. I'm excited to meet him. He sounds like a really cool dude.
Yeah.
That's a shout out for sure. But also one more thing is like in paying homage to the people who helped you get here, is there people who you want to shout out and just, dip some gratitude their way? It doesn't have to be directly or just an inspiration.
Oh boy. Damn. I don't know. That's a loaded question. There's just
Chris definitely. Chris definitely.
Chris.
Your animals. They're awesome.
For sure. I mean, honestly, just anyone who has stuck by me, anyone,
Aww.
all of you, even if you're listening or not, I don't know if you will, but anyone who let me practice on them before I knew what the fuck I was doing. God bless you.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's really cool.
Anyone who still lets me try new things. Because
that's very cool.
That's a thing too. There's always trying new things.
I like it, Nicole.
Always something new.
I like it.
And thank you to everybody who travels to come see me, whether it's near or far. It's super inspiring. It's just wild. It's just wild. I can't. It's just too much.
One thing people need to know about Rhode Island is it's all far. It's all far in Rhode Island. If it's more than 15 minutes, it's fucking far.
And
that's a Rhode Island thing.
That's sarcasm for anybody that's not picking up what we're throwing down. Because if you're not from Rhode Island, you probably would be like, "What?"
Yeah, you don't get it. I mean, I'm really adding extra credit to your gratitude, honestly, because there is an attitude of like gratitude, like when you travel more than 15 minutes, you have traveled far in Rhode Island. So like to be like, thank you for traveling for me. Yeah. That's big in Rhode Island, man, because people don't.
I had one girl come from Nova Scotia. I was like,
so cool. That's
granted,
awesome.
She had family out here and she was visiting, but she was still from Nova Scotia.
There's so many tattoo artists in Rhode Island. That's awesome.
Like, wow.
That's so cool. That is awesome.
And then whenever I ask why me, it's always, I really like your vibe.
That's really cool.
And no one's going to know that unless you show your fucking vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you do. And you are really good. I do want to give you a nod that way. You have a great social media presence. You've worked very hard on that. Definitely go follow if you're listening to this, because you're not going to be disappointed. It's already awesome. It's just going to keep scaling from there. So, pretty soon you're going to be teaching your own classes in it. And I mean, you've done so much already. This is probably going to matter a lot to a lot of people that you're not even aware of. So I'm very grateful for your time.
Thank you, Amy. I'm grateful for you too.
Yeah, you're awesome, man. It's a great connection. Yeah. You have a great night, and yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
All righty. End this. Always so difficult to know how to end these diary entries. When Zoom cuts off, it kind of cuts off what has been, a couple hours of us chatting, and everything goes dark and my friends go away. But at this particular time, I wanted to let everybody know that Nicole DeRoy is on the road. She's doing a guest tour, kind of around Middle America. So if you could, send her a little love, some prayers for safe travels and safety home. We are so grateful, Nicole. And again, her home studio is Acme Ink in Rhode Island. So if you find yourself in that state or anywhere in the surrounding areas, because it's a wee state, please go check her out. All right, diary listeners. Till next time. God bless.
Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is the_apprenticeship_diary. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.